The guys have popped out for their morning stroll. It's a decent place they've got here. I'm thinking about Debbie Reynolds, the girl who cared about me when I was homeless. I only recently found out her full name. Like the movie star, right? Debbie can't visit me anymore. How to describe her? Not old, but not young. Incredibly well groomed. Her red coat and majestic walk certainly made her stand out from the crowd. I loved everything about her. She oozed finesse and panache. We'd made the perfect partnership. But I saw her with a bloke though. He was with her when I wanted to be. They made an odd couple walking down the street. They were always touching each other. He's got red hair like her, so I suppose they matched in some weird way. He's a fitness freak. I used to see him coming out of the gym opposite my cardboard wigwam. Tony Reynolds, always on his phone, talking about this deal and that deal. I know it's unnatural, but I became obsessed with them. It's hard to believe now, but I didn't show any interest in Debbie to begin with. She made the first move. One day in October, she left Tony and crossed the street to greet me. So elegant she was, sashaying towards me. I was moved, touched, that she would leave Tony superglued to his phone, for me. She treated me like an equal. Tony hadn't noticed her slip away, so I began chatting to her. I don't think she understood half of what I had to say, but as I was telling her my tale of woe, she looked like she was crying. Yeah, I could detect tears in her beautiful, kind eyes. She made her way back to Tony before he noticed her absence, but a week later, the same thing happened. She left him in JD Sports and waltzed over to me. I liked Debbie because she gave me nothing, apart from some TLC. Whenever she was around, I felt alive and kicking. Debbie was therapeutic. She was good for me. I could feel floods of serotonin being released. Obviously, I knew she was with someone else. Old Mr. Universe. Besides, what could I offer her? I couldn't take her off him. You could tell that she was used to the very best of everything. Anyway, Debbie and I were just there, staring at each other. And I suddenly became aware of Tony on the other side of the street. He looked angry, seeing his girl so comfortable with me. "Oi!" he shouted. "Debbie!" Debbie got such a shock. She gave me a funny look and decided it was best to go back to them. "Come and see me again soon, darling," I said. She nodded and manoeuvred away, her chestnut hair flying. Tony bellowed again. "Debbie!" causing her to dash across the street. My new best friend was hit by a taxi. I observed as she was thrown through the air like a glove puppet. I froze. Tony dropped his beloved mobile phone and rushed to Debbie's aid. He was all over her like she was a fragile Fabergé egg. "You fucking hypocrite, Tony," I said. "You talk to her like shit, and now that Debbie's dying, you're bawling like a baby." I couldn't bear to look at the scene for too long. It was like a grisly, gory film. So I gathered up my stuff and made my way to the warmth and comfort of the nearby supermarket. Was I responsible for Debbie's accident? After all, she was only run over because she'd been caught red-handed with me. I felt so guilty. Although Tony and the taxi driver were hardly blameless. A fortnight later, Tony came looking for me. When he first approached, I felt anxious, because he did look menacing, but he was surprisingly civilised. "My girl passed away," he said. "She was very fond of you." I told Tony how deeply sorry I was, and he told me that her ashes would be scattered near her hometown in Kent. To add to the poignancy, I found out she was pregnant. "Treat yourself to a good square meal," Tony said, tucked a £20 note into my pocket. We spoke a little longer. I gave him a brief synopsis of my life. I think he was touched by this story of a businessman who'd fallen on hard times. He told me that he was going to open a health food store a few streets away and that his boyfriend Jake was recruiting. I jumped at the opportunity of employment again. Tony told me that he would replace Debbie. Without her in his life, he just felt hollow. And he missed their morning walks, but having his face looked off at cockcrow, he could live without. "How could you replace her?" I inquired. "With another Irish red setter," he said. So decent of Tony and Jake to let me stay here till I find my feet. That's them now, with Alexander, the new puppy. Named after me.